Hello family and welcome back. In today's tutorial I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew this lovely off-shoulder mermaid corset dress with straps. Kindly don't forget to subscribe if it's your first time interacting with this channel. Also like and leave a comment in the comment section. The following are the materials you need to be able to make the dress. This is the boning tape to be used on the corset top part. It's followed by this brown fabric to be used on the top part as well, which is 1 yard. Next is orange Madonna fabric and zipper, 2.5 yards. I'll use it to make the skirt part. Lastly, we have brackets also to be used in making the corset top. These stones will be added on the dress top part to enhance its look later. So now let's begin drafting. As can be seen, I've taken all vertical measurements needed and I've gone ahead to draw lines across. From there, we'll label each of these lines as shoulder line, basque line, under basque line, waistline, and lastly hip line right there. Next is drawing of the normal neckline, whereby I'll use 3 inches neck width by 3 inches neck depth. After which I'll use a French curve line drawing normal neckline as can be seen. Once that is drawn, measure half shoulder measurement on shoulder line. Mine is 7 after dividing 14 by 2. Then measure further 1 inch downwards for shoulder slope, and with that I'll draw shoulder slope from neck width down to the mark. After that, I want to draw a chest line from shoulder slope. Use the formula on screen when finding chest line, or what's called armhole depth. Then I'll go ahead and label the drawn line as chest line. Moving forward, you need to carry half shoulder measurement to chest line. This will help in achieving straight vertical line. That's the armhole depth. Again, you'll need to mark quarter bust circumference on chest line. That's basically bust circumference divided by 4. From there, I'll mark half bust span on waistline from center front at 3.2 inches, which I'll also mark on the bust line and lastly on hip line as well. After which, I'll draw straight vertical line along these marks. Next is to find shoulder slope midpoint. I'll put a mark there, then extend with a line from the mark to that line drawn earlier. Having done that, I want to draw an arc above chest line. Most of the time the radius you use is measurement between bust line and under bust line, which is 3 inches in my case. But since I don't want the chest part to show a lot, I'll only use 3.5 inches, meaning I've added 0.5 inches to what I'm to measure. Here I'm measuring 3.5 inches radius all round on both sides. After marking all round, I'll just make the arc visible by drawing again with a continuous line. That being so, I'll mark 0.5 inches on that line left side, then 1 inch on the opposite side. So now we'll draw 2 parallel lines from the marks I just put from waistline to under bust line. Once that is done, I want to also measure 1 inch down from bust line on that line still. And with that, I'll draw some tiny curves using a French curve ruler as shown. I'm going to now make use of this arc drawn earlier, whereby I'll measure 1 inch on the right side, then about 0.6 inches on the left side of that line. Henceforth, I'll draw 2 more lines from bust line to these marks like that. Let's then measure 2 inches up from hip line on the dart line, which is the dart depth. So guys, with that, I'll finish up the dart drawing in that manner. If you can recall, I measured quarter bust circumference on chest line earlier. I'll just now find midpoint between armhole depth and the mark. After which, we'll measure about 0.25 inches down from that mark for new chest line. I'm doing this to lower it a bit since it's an off-shoulder dress with no sleeves. After I'm done drawing new chest line, it's time to finish up the second upper part by drawing with a curve using a curved ruler. Here is how to go about the first part of the corset. Measure 0.5 inches down from original chest line, then a tiny line across the mark like that. Again, measure 0.5 inches from center front on the same, and use that in finishing up the first upper corset part using a curved ruler. Once you finish drawing curves upper part, you also need to draw curves on the lower part, both sides to under bust line. On to the next thing, which is measuring quarter waist circumference on waistline. Have marked at 6.5 inches plus about 1.5 inches dart replacement. No allowance added this time since I'll add on actual fabric later. Quarter bust circumference is already marked on the chest line, so I'll only add that replacement with 1 inch, and that's all I'll use in finishing up body's outline. I want to draw skirt part, which is why I'm measuring quarter hip circumference on hip line at 10 inches, and with that I'll also draw skirt outline using a hip curve ruler like that. From there I'll measure 2 inches down from waistline on the skirt side outline, where I'll draw basque waistline in this direction. But first I need to measure its depth. Have decided to mark at 6 3/4 inches. So now we'll draw a straight diagonal line from the side skirt down to the 6 3/4 inches mark. Having finished that, I'll go ahead and cut out the outline, starting with basque waistline to under bust line part, and lastly cuff pieces separately. In addition to that, we'll label using arrows both at the center and the top parts to avoid any confusion. I have this other piece of pattern paper for back part with horizontal lines and yoke part drawn on it. All the lines are labeled from shoulder line, chest line to waistline. Neckline is also drawn, which is not necessary since it's an off-shoulder dress. I want to start by marking half bust span on waistline, also on bust line. Then I'll move in with the ruler in order to draw that line. But this time I'll just use normal darts, which is why I'll measure 0.5 inches on each side of that line from waistline. So now I'll go ahead and draw a normal dart, as can be seen. Next is lowering back chest line a bit with 0.5 inches on center back, but 0.5 inches on the side, then a line across like that. So now it's on the line where I'll measure quarter bust circumference from center back. Further on, we'll measure quarter waist circumference on waistline plus 1 inch dart replacement. And after that, I'll use a ruler to draw body's part outline first, then skirt outline later using a hip curve ruler. Remember, we measured 2 inches on front pattern, same applies here. 2 inches from waistline, but since the back part has no basque waistline, I'll draw a straight horizontal line across the mark instead. I feel like the dart line should go up beyond drawn chest line. I'm going to extend it a bit, and same for the dart. Next step is measuring about 1 1/4 inches from center back, which is also same as these rulers width. This is done to create space for lacing loop at the back area. Having finished, we'll cut along the outline all round, and later we'll slash out the dart area. Guys, I've gone ahead and traced out fabrics and facing pieces using the pattern papers, both front and back parts. While tracing, I left about 0.5 inches stitching allowance all round, except for front center piece, which is on fold. And these other pieces are for the strap. Very fast, I'm going to remove pins used in securing them together. I'm done removing pins. From here, I'll put pattern papers and facing pieces aside as I remain with only the main fabric pieces. These are gum stay pieces which I want to also iron on every fabric piece to enhance stiffness. I'm done with ironing gum stay, and it's time to start stitching. By first putting right sides together, I'll stitch cap pieces with about 0.5 inches from top to bottom for both. Then we'll also stitch mid loop front piece to side piece one after the other with 0.5 inches as well. And lastly, after stitching main fabric pieces, I'll go ahead and stitch lining pieces too. This is me showing you how cap pieces are stitched back together practically, and here is the end result. I'll trim off excess fabric later after I'm done stitching all the pieces. Also, me trying to iron seams flat for all the pieces in order to achieve neat look. Since I'm done ironing, I want to make boning casing to be stitched on this front top piece. So first you need to fold in like I'm demonstrating as you iron. After ironing one side all the way to the end, again fold in the other side and iron as well, same way. And this is what you should end up with. I've ironed boning casings as explained. From here I'll top stitch them on these pieces in this manner. I'm done stitching. Unfortunately, wrinkles form, which I think is because of the material I'm using, but anyway, let's continue. So also went ahead and top stitch boning casing on the cap pieces. So I'm going to use this bra cap even though they're not my size, meaning I'll be forced to trim off excess from the lower part though. So now this is how to do that. I'll leave about 0.5 inches stitching allowance at the top part, then start to pin down from top area after leaving enough stitching allowance. You need to pin all round before you can start stitching. After pinning, I'll head over to sewing machine and stitch bottom area all round with 0.25 inches. I'll now cut out excess parts like I said earlier. And with that, I'll put right sides together like that after ensuring center lines align. Then we'll stitch with 0.5 inches all round for both. I'm also done joining back pieces. I'll go ahead and attach them to front piece with 0.5 inches, right sides facing each other. I'm done doing that, and I've repeated same process on lining pieces which I've also ironed. So guys, in the beginning of this video you saw the dress has straps put on one side. Here are the strap pieces. The shorter one is 16 inches while the longer one is 19.5 inches. We'll first pin the shorter strap here, then on the back piece too right there. Next, I'll also pin down the longer strap on the other side. Then on the same area first strap was pinned at the back area. From there you can go ahead and attach lining piece and fabric piece by stitching, but first I'll need to also stitch boning casing on the back pieces. This is what we've got after stitching. When I'll be ironing it flat, I'll use a hemming gum around the cap's upper part to prevent lining from showing on fabric's right side. After laying the hemming gums from inside, this is how you iron it. I'm going to repeat the same on the second cap off camera. I've again measured waist and bust circumference and I've found it to be extra with some inches. That is where I'm trimming off excess fabric, after which I'll just fold in about 0.5 inches of the lining and fabric like I'm showing you. When done, I'll put in these lacing loop pieces one after the other as I top stitch. The spacing I'll use is 1 inch between each piece. Took my time in doing so. Here is the end result. So before I pass boning tapes in through the casings, I want to first work on the skirt part. That I'll do when I'm done. The side edge is center front. It should be on fold, but since I do not have enough paper, mine isn't. So let's start by taking vertical measurements. First is waistline to hip line at 10 inches, to knee line at 22 inches, then to dress normal full length at 38 inches. I repeat the same measurement on side in order to achieve straight horizontal lines. When done, we'll square out straight horizontal lines across the mark. Take note that this is knee line, hip line right here, and lastly full length. Next is marking quarter waist circumference on waistline. In addition to that, I'll add 1¼ inches as stitching allowance. From there, measure quarter hip circumference on hip line again plus 1¼ stitching allowance. With that, I'll go ahead and draw basis cut outline using a hip curved ruler and straight ruler as you're about to see. This is basic front skirt pattern, meaning we're not yet done because I'm drafting a mermaid skirt with sweep or tail. Now let's measure about 1½ inches on the knee line inwards like that. After that, I'll use a hip curve ruler to come up with the finished upper part skirt outline. Moving forward, we'll measure 8 inches downwards from the original full length line on both sides, that is. Then a line across. For that reason, we'll also extend side outline to meet new full length line. Again, I'll extend new full length line a bit, after which I'll measure about 5.5 inches on the extension. I'll further go up by 1 inch from that exact point since front part should be some more curved. This is me drawing final full length, which is curved, and that's why I'm using a curved ruler. Drawing side flare part from this is now easier. You draw using a straight ruler aligned from knee line to curved line. I'm done drafting front part, so now we'll cut a long outline. I'm going to be using front piece to cut out back part. First, you need about 10.5 inches allowance at the center back for the tail part, and with that I'll secure it with pins before I can start drafting. So again, we'll measure 10.5 inches to ensure it's a straight line, from where I'll draw a vertical line as can be seen. I want to draw a diagonal line right from the corner to the knee line using a straight ruler. After I'm done, we'll use a curved ruler again in finishing up back part full length like I'm showing you. I realized it wasn't looking good down here. That's why I'm trying to draw a smooth curve again freehand. Let's go ahead and also trace out the rest of the front part on the back pattern paper. Once done, I'll remove all the pins used. One last thing is measuring 0.5 inches inwards on the waistline, then align from the mark down to the hip line to prevent zip bulge. I want to now add about 0.75 inches stitching allowance all round center back. After which I'm going to cut out along the outline. This zipper is to be fixed here, so for that reason I'll measure 8.5 inches zipper allowance, then I'll go ahead and stitch the rest of the center back pieces together with 0.75 inches stitching allowance to the bottom edge. Also, I'll loosely stitch zipper allowance area just for now without back stitching. Have stitch as explained. I didn't back stitch zipper space allowance so that it will be easy tearing it out. This is front piece. What I'm doing is trying to find its midpoint. That's why it's on fold. So since I know where the center line is, we'll pin front top part down from center front. After pinning, I'm going to trace out basque waistline on the skirt part. After tracing out and unpinning, we'll add 0.5 inches stitching allowance all round basque waistline from where I'm going to cut. Now time to stitch on sides using body measurements from waistline all the way to the bottom edge on both sides. This is it after joining front and back pieces together from side. So now we'll rip out zipper space allowance to make it easier stitching top part to skirt part. Before I can attach them, I'll first pass boning tapes in through the casings one by one. As I'm doing that, I'll be cutting them shorter than the casing to leave room for stitching. I've also decided to file boning tapes after cutting both at the top and bottom to make them smooth and easier to work with. After doing so and ironing, we'll put right sides together, then stitch with 0.5 inches all round waistline. Do it as explained, and here is the end result. So now I'm going to fix this zipper on the space left, then we'll use this other piece of fabric as facing so that we end up with neatly finished look. One last thing is double hemming bottom edge all round and ironing it flat afterwards. This is what I was talking about, guys. It's neatly finished both from inside and outside. Kindly don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I'll meet you guys in our next tutorial. Bye.